Welcome everyone. And so yeah, this session is about how to make your presence as a student. In other words, like how to maybe like you can also rephrase it as like how to improve your personal brand. So yeah, the agenda is, so I will start with like who am I, and then why do you need why do you even need an online presence? And I mean, why to do like a lot of things just to make your online presence? Why do you even need it or not? And then yeah, do you need an online presence? And how exactly can you make an online presence? How can you grow, and how can you make a personal brand? So yeah, and then in the last we can talk about some communities, some awesome communities which if you do not know about that, so you need to know, and you need to join those communities. So that is basically about the agenda. Now, starting with myself, as Hanif did a very good introduction, but I'm going to talk about a bit more. So yeah, I work at MLH, specifically their MLH fellowship department. So the fellowship, if you do not know about that, it's basically like kind of like Google Summer of Code, where students join and then they do open source for the 12 weeks. So it's something like that. So I work there and do the community management. I'm also a GitHub campus expert and an ex-GDSC lead, just like for what. If someone wants to connect with me after this session or have any question, you can do that by on LinkedIn or Twitter. So my social handle is the same, that is Khatak Dev everywhere. Either it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, anywhere. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Now, 8 years ago, that cartoon you see, that's me 8 years ago. Very shy, very introvert, scared to talk, always being in a corner, do not want to talk even if I have question. And then currently you're listening to me. So that's like a transition from like someone who was very scared, very introvert, and then now very extrovert, and being very comfortable on the camera. So that's the transition of me of 8 years. Now, why am I talking about this? You will figure that out in the next few slides, but I just wanted to give you an idea of like I used to be an introvert. So the reason I mentioned this is specifically there might be most of you who are introvert as well, who do not want to come forward, who do not want to talk. So and they might be doubting their abilities and might be doubting whether am I a good fit for this when we go through the slides and when I talk about the things that you need to do to make your online presence. So that is the reason I mentioned this. So I used to be an introvert. So if you're an introvert, that's totally fine. You can change that, and it's something not very difficult, trust me. So now, talking about why do you need online presence? Is it something? So consider you have like a big amount of cash, and you want to purchase a vehicle. So ignoring the fact if there is someone in the audience that do not like BMW, so ignoring that fact, so you have two choices. Money is not the issue for you. You have two choices. You have to either pick BMW, or you have to pick some other vehicle which you do not know about. Maybe like, let's name it unknown. So there is two brands, BMW and unknown. So do let me know which brand would you go for. Again, ignoring the fact that there is money issue, there is you do not personally like BMW, those kind of things. So in that case, most of you will go for BMW, because you do not know about that unknown brand. How is it? How's the users response on this, users feedback on this, and are those kind of things. But in case of BMW, it's something it's like a very good brand. Like, you know about it very much. So of course you're going for the BMW. So now if we replace that, if we replace the BMW with you having like a very good presence, maybe consider you as a GDE, because that's something that we recently was talking. So consider yourself as a GD, and then replace the BMW with that. And then on the other hand, that unknown, replace that with some developer who has no presence, who you do not know about. So then obviously, if in this case you're going for BMW, then in that case you will go for that person who has a web audience. So what is the difference between these two brands? In the BMW, BMW is very known. BMW has a presence. BMW has made a name in the industry, whereas this unknown brand, no one knows about that. That is the same case with a developer. If you have made your name in the industry, if you are known on the web, if you have a good presence, then you are the BMW. If there isn't any such thing, if you're introvert, if you do not want to speak, if you do not want to talk, if you have no online presence, then you are that unknown brand which no one actually likes. So you have to accept that fact, and then you have to move out of the comfort zone, and you have to move from being unknown to be a BMW. So that is why you need an online presence. So now here is the thing. If you want to move from unknown to BMW, so you need an online presence. Now, again, some other things that is for why do you need an online presence. Number one thing, you build a trust. So as I said in the previous example, now BMW has made its name. It has trust. So if you're purchasing BMW, you are satisfied that it's a good company, it's a good brand, and of course the vehicle that you be purchasing, it's something that will be up to the mark. On the other side, if you're going for that unknown brand, you are not exactly sure how it's going to perform, whether you're going to like it or not. So there's no like that level of trust between you and that unknown brand. That's one thing. Another thing is relationships and connections. So when you step forward, when you have a presence, when you talk to the people, you will eventually start making relationships and connections, and those connections are something that's going to like help you a lot in the future, which leads me to the third point, which is better opportunity. So if you have connections, if you have an online presence, people will go towards you. You will stand out from the rest of the people. If you have connection, let me give you a very simple example. You want to apply at Google, and there is someone that works at Google who is the manager, and you are applying at a Google. So now, if you go through like their website and apply and add your CV and go through the normal process, so it's going to take you a long time, and it's going to be like very tough for you. On the other side, if you ask that person who works at the Google, because you have a connection with them, you have a relationship with them, if you ask them to, hey, if you can please refer me at Google at this specific position, maybe any other company, not just Google. So that's just an example. And they say like, yeah, sure. So in this case, your chances of getting hired and your chances of getting that opportunity, that vacancy, is much higher than all of those other folks who are just going through the normal process. So that is another reason of why you need an online presence. Once you start making online presence, people are going to like you, people are going to put their trust on you, which includes the companies, which includes the other people, which includes the followers, the subscribers, etc. And then eventually you will start making different connections with the people, and which will eventually lead you to better opportunities. So by now, I think I gave you like enough points to convince you that you do need an online presence if you do not have it. So yeah, if you remember in the About Me section, I talked about I was an introvert, and then I moved to an extrovert, and being very comfortable at camera, and being very comfortable and talking in person, etc. So you might be also an introvert, and if that is the case, and if you're scared about this thing that I'm very scared to talk to the people, I'm very scared to like step on the stage or those kind of things, so that is something that's like not an easy thing, but that's also not impossible. That's something very doable. So yeah, you might be an introvert. So here's the warning, here's the disclaimer. You have to come forward, but it's not going to be easy. And again, it's also not going to be impossible. You can still do it. You just need to force yourself. You just need to force yourself to get out of that comfort zone. And initially, it's going to be a bit difficult, but then once you like get into the process, it's going to be very smooth and very natural, and you're going to love it. So now, of course, I do not want you that when I say like you have to step out of your comfort zone or you have to force yourself, that does not mean that like on the next day you just sign up for like a DevFest in person as a speaker where there is going to be like 500 audience. I'm sure you will pass out when you go on the stage. So I also do not mean that. You do not need to do that. So what's the solution? So maybe you can go step by step rather than like just directly signing up for an event which has like 500 audience or something like that. So the way I divide this, or the way like here's the strategy which I share with everyone who asks me this question of like how to improve myself, or how to make my personal brand, or how to make web presence, etc. So here's the thing. Now, I divide it into 4 steps. The very first step is blogging. So you need to start with blog, because the reason why I have it in the step 1 is, in the blogging, you do not need to show your face, you do not need to show yourself, you do not need to talk to the people like in person. It's something where you just share your thoughts. So I think even if you're introvert, or even if you do not have the confidence, or even if you have never did those kind of things before, so still you can do it. In the blogging, you're sharing your thoughts. You're not sharing your words. I mean, by speaking, you're not sharing your audio, like your visual, or like your yourself in terms of the in front of the audience. So you can start with the blogging, and you can start writing blogs. That's the very first step which you can do, and that will help you to be comfortable with sharing your thoughts with other people, and that's something that will help you later. So in the previous session, in the previous panel discussion, the GDs were discussing that you cannot do everything like open source contribution, blogging, writing, making videos, etc. So when I say you have to start with the blogging, and if you are someone who prefers live sessions, that does not mean that you have to keep writing the blogs. Maybe you can do it initially, and once you're comfortable and you want to move to the next step, you can maybe skip it, and you can focus on the other things. So yeah, the very first thing is blogging. Once you're comfortable with that, you can go to the next step, that is podcast. Now what happens, the podcast, you are sharing your voice, and as in terms of like you're speaking in the podcast and people can hear you. So here are the 2 things in the podcast. You are sharing your voice, and then you're also sharing your thoughts. In the step 1, you're just sharing your thoughts by writing, and then people can read your blogs. So the step 2 is podcast. Once you're comfortable with the blogging, you can move on to the step 2, which is podcast, and you can speak and make podcasts on different things. There are tons of technologies, there are tons of topics which you can talk about, and there are different, and there are vast amount of topics and technologies that you can talk about. So step 2 is podcast. You can go with the podcast. Once you start feeling comfortable, and once the podcast is in your comfort zone, you can go on to the step 3, live events. So in the step 3, it's live events, not the in-person events. And the reason I have the live events here is because live events are different from the in-person events. In-person events, you are actually standing in front of the audience and you're talking. So you are there in person, you are there physically. Whereas in the live events, you have your camera, and you, like for example, in my setup, you can just see my head. You cannot see the rest of my body. So this is a bit like this is something which you can get more comfortable. This is something which might be easy for you initially compared to in-person events, because there you have to stand in front of the audience. Whereas in live events, you can just turn on the camera and people can just see your face, just your head. So in the blogging, we talked about like you can share your thoughts. In the podcast, you can share the thoughts and you can share your voice. And in the step 3, the live events, you can share your thoughts. You will be sharing your thoughts. You'll be sharing your audio, and then you will also sharing your voice as well as your video. So that is the step 3. And then the last step is DevFest in person, or like any other in-person event. So in those in-person events, you are physically present there. You are moving, you are standing, maybe you're sitting, but you are physically present there. And being physically present is something that's different from sitting in front of your computer and showing yourself on the camera. So that's I place that in the step 4 because you are physically present there. So once you're comfortable with the blogging, then you can move on to the podcast and you can move on to the live events. And when you're comfortable with all those 3 things, you can go for the in-person events. And I would suggest you not directly jump into like a huge events where there are tons of audience. Maybe you can start with like small events like your local community events. Another good example is if you're a student, you can go for in your university or in your class, there are class presentations and semester projects for which you have to present. So that's also like one of the good way to present and one of the good way to improve your confidence and coming forward. So you can use that opportunity as a perfect chance to practice. So yeah, then the last step is in-person events. Again, you can start with the local and small audience, meaning the small events where there isn't a lot of audience if you're still not comfortable, and then later on you can move on towards the huge events. Now, why exactly I talked about these 4 things? Because if I like whatever I said, it's mostly about like how to improve yourself, how to improve your public speaking, or how to improve your confidence. But if you keep doing these things, you will eventually see that these things are helping you to improve your web presence. So, for example, this event, this DevFest, so this GDG Live DevFest event. So now this is an event, and the organizers, like I'm a speaker here. The organizer made a post of myself, and then they added that to on their Facebook page or all those event pages. Now, with that thing, a lot of the people know about me. Maybe they do not know about me before, but now they know about me that there exists a person whose name is Arsalan, and he is XYZ. So now that is a way of letting the people know that you exist. And then in this session, when I'm talking, maybe a lot of other people know about me that Arsalan is a person who exists and he does this and that, etc. So when you're doing these things, you are basically improving your web presence. You are not just improving your web presence, you're also improving your personal brand, and you're also improving your speaking skills, etc. So these are the different things that you can do. Now, this is my personal strategy that I used and that I suggest to others as well to follow. But if you have anything else in your mind, or if you find any other strategy, something else, feel free to follow that as well. That also works. It's not something that's only this is going to work. So yeah, these are the few things, and it's not just limited to that. Maybe I can talk about like here are a few other things. So you can do public speaking, you can do technical writing, blogging, you can do open source contribution, you can be a part of different tech communities, you can be active on social media, especially Twitter and LinkedIn. And the last but not the least, online portfolio, which is like very much important, which has like a great importance. So there are different things which you can do in terms of to improve your web presence or to improve your personal brand. So yeah, you can, and you do not need to do all of those things. Like As the GDs mentioned before, you do not need to do everything like open source contribution, public speaking, technical writing, making videos, going on the events as a speaker. You can maybe pick one or two that you're most comfortable with, and you can do that. For example, in my case, the most of the things that I do is public speaking and making videos, and then comes the technical writing and the open source contribution. So you can prioritize them, and you can prioritize them in a way that whatever you get the most, you can focus on that the most, or whatever thing in which you're most comfortable with. Let's say you're more comfortable with writing blogs, or you can share your thoughts very well in writing blog in as compared to the video. So you can go with that. So that these are the few things that you can do to improve your web presence, or to even improve your personal brand. And then I talk about be a part of tech community. So if you're a student, these are the few communities that I know, and of course, it's not just limited to these. But as I said, these are the few amazing communities that I know: Microsoft Student Ambassador, Google Developer Students Clubs, GitHub Campus Expert, and Amazon Ambassadors. So I have been a part of like the first three: Microsoft, Google, and GitHub. And my personal favorite one is GitHub Campus Expert, because you get a lot of opportunities there that can help you to connect with other people, make good relations. That does not mean that the rest of the three does not help you in that case, but my personal favorite one is GitHub Campus Expert. So if you're a student, believe me, you have a lot of opportunities to get into the programs. There are some programs which have limitation. For example, Google Developer Student Clubs, GitHub Campus Expert, that is something that can only, they just pick one person from the campus. So there is this limitation. But Amazon Ambassador and AWS Ambassador, Microsoft Student Ambassador, that is something which have no limitation as like just picking one person. So if your campus or if your university already has someone as a campus expert or developer students club, so in that case, you can maybe go for the student ambassador or AWS ambassador, and you can be a part of that. And also the student ambassador and Amazon AWS ambassador is something that's I personally find a bit easier to get into compared to GDSC or GitHub Campus Expert. So you can be a part of these communities. And another most interesting and important thing to keep in mind is once you get into these communities, you make relationships with not just within your country, but with the people around the world. Maybe someone that's sitting in Mexico, or maybe someone that's sitting in Brazil or any other country. So you connect with people that is like on a totally different part of the world. So you do make a lot of connections here, and those connections also involves people who are already working on those companies, which can be eventually helpful to you when you are applying for the jobs, and you can ask them for if they can refer you. And part of these communities, here are the few tech communities which you can join even if you are not a student. So the first one is Google GDG, which is something I believe everyone know. And then comes the Facebook Developer Circus. This is a community that is not present in almost every city, or not very famous as GDG, but that is also a community that exists. So you can check that as well if it exists in your city. The first two are city-wise communities. So you can check that if there are any such communities in your city, and you can join that. And then the last one is developer advocates specific. So this is if you do not know about developer advocate, so developer advocate is a person in a company who tries to promote their technology by doing public events, public speaking, writing blogs, etc., to give you an idea of like how to use that technology. They do the documentation stuff, they do the video tutorials, etc. So those are called developer advocates. So I did notice a lot of the developer advocates have their own personal community on Discord. So if you're following some developer advocate, chances are they do have, or if you're following someone, it's not just specific to developer advocate. Actually, it's like almost everyone who's out there writing blog posts, making videos, etc. They do have a Discord community. So if you're following someone, let's say now, yeah, I do follow a person that's named as Maximilian, who has a channel Academind. Now they have their own Discord community. So that is the case with almost every person or every company that has their that make courses or things like that. So try to join those communities, and that there you can connect with other people. There you can make relationships, make connections, and you are going to find people who are who have the same interest. For example, you want to improve your web presence, so there you will find the people who want to do the same thing. So there is a lot of these other communities as well, which you can join. And having a community is much better, and that can help you a lot in terms of your growth and productivity and performance, etc. As compared to being someone who has no interaction with other people who share the same goals. So joining a community is something that is highly recommended, at least by me. So yeah, that is almost it from my side. If you want to connect with me, my handles everywhere, either it's GitHub, Twitter, or LinkedIn, etc. It's Correct Dev.